I have a member who is starting their own business, but keeps hitting different roadblocks and barriers and finding it difficult to stay motivated. Ooh, that's a word. Uh, this member wants to know what keeps me motivated to keep going as a business owner. Huh. Good question. Um, well, a couple of things. I think one, before I get into what keeps me motivated, I would say going back to starting and owning a business. I think a lot of people come into business ownership thinking that it's easier than working for someone. If you've worked in corporate organizations, the political nonsense that goes on and some of the unfun realities that are innate in those types of settings. And so you kind of come over to business ownership thinking it'll be easier. There's all the stuff you don't have to deal with, and blah blah blah. And in some ways, that's true. There are certain nuanced issues that aren't necessarily right in front of your face, or that you deal with at all as a business owner. However, there is no safety net when you own a business, especially not only for yourself, but as you hire people, you are responsible for making sure that you can pay your people and yourself. And so it can be really tough. So I think just coming into it with the right mindset and expectations about what it even means to be a business owner and what it's going to take. It takes a lot. It takes a ton of sacrifice. And quite frankly, it isn't for everyone. Not trying to talk you out of it, but I don't think we talk enough about the reality that for some, business ownership just really isn't an ideal reality to lean into. Um, it's one thing to be good at what you do and be talented at whatever your skill set or widget making thing is. It's a totally different skill set to be a business owner. And so you cannot own a business and only be good at the thing you do, right? So I am good at coaching and supporting individuals in growth, but that is a totally different skill set, right, than owning a business. In some cases, I'm able to leverage, right, the insight that I have and skill sets I have as a coach and clinician, as a business owner. However, there's a lot about business ownership that has nothing to do with that. And I've coached many business owners who, quite frankly, are running from the responsibilities that are key to running a business, i.e., sales, marketing, um, business strategy, those kinds of things that really, quite frankly, are not fun. And so they want to get right to the fun thing of doing the thing that they're good at. But a business is not successful without running the business, leveraging business strategies, um, financial management, and things of that nature that some of us just aren't necessarily good at or interested in being good at. And so those are things you need to think about if you're going to be a business owner. That you have to be good at doing business, and those are separate from what you do as far as your passion. And expect roadblocks and barriers. I mean, that's life, but it's definitely business owner life. It can feel like no matter what you do, there's another barrier that comes up. But the truth of the matter is that's really the case in any area of life. When you think about if you're a parent, there are roadblocks and barriers all along the way. As your child gets older, there's new things that you work through. If you think about your role as a spouse or partner in your relationship with your boo thing, there are new challenges that come as you get older, as holidays come up, as you have children, as you have blended families. There's always new barriers that come up. So I think sometimes we think that this is just the reality of a business owner, but it really is the reality of life. I will say, though, that it can be lonely because those are issues that not everyone is facing. So there's less folks to talk to about it. Um, and so for me, and this is not necessarily this person asked, how do I stay motivated? This is my answer. It's not going to necessarily be the thing for you, but um, one of the things that I don't venture off into is quitting. This is really a journey of fortitude and being able to stick to it, learning as you go and learning as you go and learning as you go. So for me, The one thing that helps me, and again, this is not going to be for everyone, but for me, I know that I'll be miserable if I decide I'm going to go back into an employee scenario, unless something really super special and unique shows itself for me. Um, and that would probably require me to be able to continue to be innovative and be a leader in my own right, even if I'm not the owner of the business. I know I would be miserable, right? So, I do give myself permission to step down and step away. And I think we all should do that, because there are times where, even if you've had a good run at it, it may be time to exit, and that's okay. But for me, at least for right now, it's not. The other alternative is what I would say would be harder for me, and so that helps me to stay motivated. I also very much fully believe that the skill sets that I have and the services and products that I sell are filling a void in the market. And so um I don't believe, in my case, it's a question of whether or not you have a good thing going. Some of us, and there were times when that wasn't the answer. And so I didn't go full out on selling the products and services I do now, because I don't think the market was ready. So I tweaked and did some things that were similar, but the market called for at the time. So you also have to be willing to make adjustments and know when the market's ready for you and when the market is not. But for me, I think the very key and essence, core reality of my motivation is um, I always measure myself against myself. So I'm really never comparing myself to another business owner or another business. Of course, I do market research to know what my competition is doing, what their price points are, and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I feel very confident in who I am and what I do, and I'm measuring myself against that. So my motivation and my drive really comes from making sure, it's very important to me to make sure that I'm living out my full potential. And if I'm not living out my full potential, that very much affects my level of happiness. And so that I'm motivated to live out what's possible for me. And so if I feel like I haven't quite gotten there, then that's motivation for me to continue on. Now, I'll wrap up by saying, you know, uh, I just finished some research with 13 elite performers and asking them how they define success, and all of them have evolved in how they define success. And I will say that I have evolved my definition of success as well. And so while I just told you what my motivator is, I can't say that that will be the motivator forever, because I can even say in the last few years, I've had more of a desire to enjoy my life with my partner, and enjoy life in a way that doesn't require me to run a business. And so I do look at different adjustments that I may make to ensure that the drive that I have and the thing that I'm driving towards still aligns with me and what I want in my life right now, rather than staying committed to the same definition of success or the same aspirations I had 5 years ago. So I would just wrap up by saying that I think it's important to make sure that you are revisiting what motivates you, what you define as success, and be honest with yourself about the market, because some of us are really pushing hard for a product people aren't buying right now, even though you think it's awesome. It just might not be a product that people want. And I'll give you one example. This is extreme, but this is real. Um, I've always wanted a rocking bed. Like obviously rocking in a chair is good for babies. It's good for us. We walk in swings, and they're like really calming. So I'm like, why can't there be a rocking bed? I promise you, I've looked all over for this. But then I look at, if I had to guess what it would take to create that, I'm pretty sure the cost would be more than your everyday consumer would be willing to pay. And so therefore, that's why it doesn't exist. So smart people have decided not to go into business with that if they've had this great idea, because I actually thought about it, right? So just being honest with yourself about the market and what's realistic. And that's really hard to do when you're passionate about a thing or a product or a service. And so you can find yourself really demotivated if you're hitting a wall trying to force something to happen. So I would encourage you to be thoughtful not only about what your target market is and what they want, and be honest with yourself about that. And I think it requires us to ask other people and be willing to hear an answer that we might not want, but also be willing to revisit your definition of success so that as adjustments need to be made, you make them. Because we believe in holistic success, which means you don't want to completely rid yourself of all happiness in the name of being a business owner.